Hello and welcome to another episode of Fully Charged News. Now, something a little bit different because I'm reporting to you here from the very comfortable cabin of the Volvo XC40 P8 Recharge. Really nice car. You will probably have seen the review of this car by the time this news goes out, but if not, it's coming soon. And it's entirely appropriate for this first story. Now, let's just start with some news about some painfully obvious conclusions that have been revealed in a recent report. Vehicles with internal combustion engines, when all aspects of their lifetime impact are taken into account, are hundreds of times dirtier than electric cars. Shock, horror, revelation. Who could possibly ever have predicted that? Oh wait, I've been banging on about it for the last 11 years. Anyway, moving on. The report comes from Transport and Environment, an organisation based in Brussels and funded by numerous government and independent bodies in Europe. So there'll be some people in this country who won't take any notice of it, which is fine. I don't want them to. But not the oil industry or the established automotive industry. They don't contribute to this particular organisation. Now, they researched in-depth analysis of the impact of transport systems at a macro level. Not one car or one road, but all traffic all over Europe. And once again, not the proudly and endlessly repeated tailpipe emissions. You know, that ridiculous con job run by the oil industry and the car manufacturers, which only tell a fraction of the impact of burning fuel in a combustion engine and are always wrong anyway, but the entire manufacturing and fuel impact. Their key findings are very interesting, and I've put links below this episode if you want to delve a bit deeper. But number one is stark and clear. Electric vehicles consume far less raw materials, we're talking metals, than fossil fueled cars over their entire lifetime. But we've been fed this torrent of lies, misinformation and speculative fiction regarding the use of fossil fuels. And the more people know this, the more desperate the oil industry will become. They are not happy when we've worked out that continuing to use their fuel is a really bad idea. They won't stop telling lies. They'll just generate more new ones, pumping out shock horror stories to get headlines. It's lovely. Now, I recently did a piece on the Texas freeze and their tragically failing fossil-fueled power generation. Well, here's some good news for our Texas friends. It's recently been revealed that Tesla have been discreetly building another mega battery just outside Houston. It looks similar in size and capacity to the battery Tesla installed in South Australia. There's been a massive success, both in terms of assisting grid management and generating actual profit. It makes money, which is why people are investing in big batteries. It's easy to forget that a full 30% of Tesla's revenue comes from their energy sector. The cars will always get all the publicity, but they are without question leading the field in grid-level energy storage at the moment. And while we're on the topic of what does and doesn't get in the news, here's a story about the possibilities of massive-scale solar farms in the Sahara Desert. Now, it's worth a read if you're interested, but what they're essentially saying is that if we covered a truly vast area of the Sahara with solar panels, and I'm talking hundreds of square miles, this could produce more electricity than Europe and North Africa could possibly ever use. But the impact of this vast area of dark solar panels could mean less heat is reflected back into space by the light-coloured sand of the Sahara, meaning the temperature of the desert might increase. And in case you've never been in a desert when it's hot, it's ever so hot. I have been in a few very hot deserts, and it's not chilly. You don't need a coat. That might not matter so much in a very sparsely populated area like the middle of the Sahara, but because of the scale of such installations, the researchers are concerned that there could be wider climate impacts. With that much heat could affect weather patterns for the entire planet, and this is something that really needs to be studied. If it happens, they don't actually know that it would happen. But then again, you could read this other report about the incredible possibilities for huge amounts of solar in the Sahara. This report suggests that huge amounts of solar could help bring back vegetation to this dry and desolate area. Whatever the real result of huge solar in Morocco, I think we can assume it's very likely to happen. I've reported in the past about the authorities in Morocco wanting their country to become, as they quoted, the Saudi Arabia of renewables, supplying solar power on a massive scale to Europe. And I'll tell you why this is being discussed is because the transportation from the North Africa to the European grid is not that far if you're in Morocco, because you're just basically going across the very narrow gap of the Mediterranean between Morocco and Spain. So, you know, they've got to lay there, and there's all sorts of amazing technologies for new high voltage cables that would carry, you know, we're talking terawatts of electricity across the Mediterranean into Europe. However, all that aside, what we're seeing here is the serious ramping up of renewables, not just in the USA or Europe or North Africa, but all over the world. A recent report has suggested some very big changes already underway in India. Solar power currently makes up just 4% of India's power supply, but it is set to grow 18-fold by 2040. They are installing gigawatts of solar all the time. Now, this is not to gloss over the fact that India's CO2 emissions are likely to rise over the next 20 years because they like burning coal there. But what is interesting is they are still well under what each of us in the West produce as individuals. That's partly because you know, there's a lot of Indians and there's not that much electricity yet in India, but it is growing, as I will explain. India is able to leap ahead now, taking advantage of the increased efficiency and reduced costs of solar and storage, and that's what there's a lot of pressure within Indian politics to do that. Because there's some very confusing stats from India, and I've been there, and it's the most glorious, beautiful, stunning country with the most wonderful people. I have never been more blown away visiting a country, but there's some contradictions that you just stare at open mouthed. The nation has the world's fifth largest coal reserves and is a major centre for oil refining for the entire region, not just for India, but is also heavily reliant on imported coal and oil. This is burnt in increasingly unreliable and expensive power plants. Meanwhile, it actually has a surplus of electricity generation, as many people in the country still face an unreliable supply or no supply at all. But the consumption of energy in India is set to rise big time, so this surplus is a temporary glitch. The International Energy Authority, the IEA report, suggests that India would benefit economically to a huge degree the more renewables they install, due to not paying for fuel from overseas, like coal from Australia. Just saying. There is increasing public pressure to adopt more and more solar. However, a bit like Australia, the people want the solar. The government in India is hell-bent on burning more coal. I wonder why that is. Could it have anything to do with money? Now, a couple of other stories. Trucks. Big trucks. Massive lorries. That's what we call them in this little country. Lorries. Now, I had some interesting and polite interactions on Twitter recently on this topic. Some lovely, gentle people saying electric trucks are just as bad as diesel, and where we should be using cargo bikes. That's what they were saying. And the cargo bikes are I'm crazy keen on cargo bikes. And we're doing lots and lots of shows about cargo bikes, and the technology of cargo bikes is developing rapidly, and the use of them is developing rapidly, and that is brilliant. But if you want to deliver 7 tons of concrete blocks to a building site in the middle of a city, it might be a little bit easier to use a big electric truck to do the job, one with a crane on it, that sort of truck. I also heard from obsessively pro-diesel truck drivers who said no one will ever make a usable electric truck. No one. They said it with absolute confidence. They know. They've been to the future. They've had a look around. All trucks are diesel. They've come back and told us no one will ever use an electric truck because they're not usable. Then I saw this. Detroit Diesel is going electric. I think the title says it all, really. The big truck companies have worked out that electric trucks are going to become the norm. They will have the range, they certainly have the power, and as I like to repeat, diesel is dead technology. Now here's another nail in diesel's coffin. Scania, the Swedish truck company. You suppose you could say Scania? I think Scania is right. Anyway, they have announced that they're going all in on electric drivetrains for their heavy-duty trucks. In a couple of years' time, Scania plans to introduce long-distance electric trucks that will be able to carry a total weight of 40 tons for 4.5 hours at a time. And that would be around 500 kilometres of highway truck driving. And then they would fast charge during the driver's compulsory 45-minute rest. Scania also has some interesting things to say about hydrogen fuel cell trucks. Now, I've long held the opinion that trucks and buses are the ideal candidate for hydrogen fuel cell technology. And indeed, Scania has built a few HFC trucks that are in daily operation by delivery companies, which has given them valuable insights into the reliability and versatility of hydrogen heavy goods vehicles. They think the technology does have a future, but they say, and I quote from their website, the use of hydrogen for such applications will be limited since 3 times as much renewable electricity is needed to power a hydrogen truck compared to a battery electric truck. A great deal of energy is namely lost in the production, distribution and conversion back to electricity. That is kind of the problem with it. They went on, repair and maintenance also need to be considered. The cost for a hydrogen vehicle will be higher than for a battery electric vehicle as its systems are more complex, such as an extensive air and cooling system. Furthermore, hydrogen is a volatile gas which requires more maintenance to ensure safety. Well, okay, that's a fairly comprehensive list of reservations. And I should mention Scania will soon be buying the steel they use to make their trucks from H2 Green Steel, a company I mentioned here not long ago, who are using renewable energy and hydrogen, very importantly. I'm not anti-hydrogen. Don't care what anyone says. I'm really not. I think it's brilliant. So they're using electricity and hydrogen to produce steel, not coal, like the coal lobby says you need to make steel. You've got to have coal or we can't make steel. No, you don't. Use electricity and hydrogen, you numpties. Anyway, we're doing some more reports on this year on big electric trucks, buses and other very large electric machines. Ooh, I can't wait. Anyway, that's all. That's the news done from the inside the Volvo XC40. Just quickly want to thank our lovely Patreons, and obviously suggest you have a look at the Patreon link that's beneath this page, and please do subscribe to Fully Charged. I said that really quickly, but I just want to thank these wonderful Patreons, and the first one is going to be quite a challenge for me to say. Matrin Dwivenvoorden, Marcus Brook, Joel Devlin, Conrad Heaven, Gary Reynolds, Patrick Steele, Chongololo, Alex Yeager, Dan Hogue, John Van Deeken, David Ramsbottom, Gunlauger Erlendson, Valentine Harizanov, Adam McManus, Owen Clark, Peter Flatley, Dean Fielding, thank you Dean, John Strickland, Duncan Trevon and Russon Seville. I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you. These are people who donate $10 a month or more to maintain Fully Charged output. I think you can agree we've been doing quite a lot of output of late. And it's brilliant fun, and we've got so many plans for what we're going to be doing in the future. We're really excited. And now there's the live shows. Do have a look at all the stuff we're doing. It's all on the fullycharged.show website. But that's all for me from the Volvo. If you have been, thank you for watching.
Don't forget our great EV giveaway. Subscribe and enter for the chance to win one of several electrifying prizes, including one of 4 electric cars.